Good morning, everyone. Climate change. Climate change.
Yeah.
Everything you want to know about climate change hysteria, how to deal with it. What about Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, $10 billion
$10 billion
to fight climate change. But I tell you what, he can't change what God is doing and has done and will be doing.
Right.
But anyway, okay, so everything you want to know about climate change, I have Bodie Hodge with me, who's one of our speakers and writers, and he does all sorts of things.
Do all sorts of things.
But Bodie's going to be speaking at this conference. We have an incredible conference coming up here in the Answer Center. Now, this is the Answer Center at the Ark Encounter. For all the secularists out there who say nobody comes to the Ark and nobody comes to the Creation Museum, despite the fact that we had millions and millions of people come, I want you to see, you're right, it's empty, there is no one here.
Why is that, Ken?
Because we're not open until 10 o'clock.
We're not open yet.
And the first program is not until 10:15.
Yeah.
And this is winter, so there won't be as many people as normal. Things start ramping up.
You're telling me
people start ramping up very soon.
People don't want to go on vacation in January to Cincinnati area?
Yeah, with the
we do have people come through
cold
and
yeah, we do actually. Our numbers this winter, it's surprising, but January the numbers have been up. February they're up. It's incredible.
Is that because of climate change?
Must be because of climate change. More and more people coming to the Ark all the time and to the Creation Museum. Anyway, okay, so April 9 through 12, and actually it's April 8 through 12, but it's 9 through 12. Do you know why I say that?
We have some pre-stuff.
We have a pre-conference on April 8, and then April 9 through 11, an in-depth conference with a whole range of speakers dealing with climate change, physical climate change and spiritual climate change, okay? And so I'll also be doing a FaceTime Live with Dr. Andrew Snelling. He'll be speaking at the conference, and he'll be dealing with some of that physical climate change. We have some experts who will look at climate change in the past and today and what's really going on. Really, it comes down to your worldview. That's what it is, your worldview that interprets the evidence. And I saw that in politics recently.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, everyone had the same evidence. You got the same constitution, but your worldview determines how you interpret it. April 12, right in here, our Easter morning sunrise service, open to the public, and it's free and free parking for people to come. Last year, this auditorium was packed, right?
It was packed,
We have great music. Ray Comfort will be speaking, but that's sort of the climax, if you like, of our conference. But Bodie, you're dealing with, at this conference, we deal with physical climate change. We also deal with spiritual climate change. And you're going to be dealing with some of the spiritual change aspects. And so, as we deal with the spiritual change aspects, and because it's Easter, as well as all the topics dealing with the Ice Age and so on, and the flood and temperatures, past and present, and climates and that, you're going to give a sort of a Easter message talking about the spiritual climate change that started 6,000 years ago.
Yeah, I am. Really what I'm talking about is Jesus and how he solved the ultimate climate change issue. Because what happened, go all the way back to the early pages of Genesis. In the 3rd chapter, we have sin in the fall. God cursed the ground. He cursed the animals. He sentenced man to die. The world went from a perfect state to a perfect state. It was no longer very good in that sense. And what we needed was someone to rescue us from sin and death. And Jesus Christ, who is God, he is the God-man, stepped into history to become a man, to die on the cross, to take that punishment that we all deserve for our sin. But there's a lot that happened from Genesis 3 leading up to Christ stepping into history. And I'm going to run through a lot of those aspects through the Old Testament. Sometimes people miss Jesus in the Old Testament, and yet there he is so often intermingled with so many of the accounts. Some of these are called theophanies, actual appearances of God in the Old Testament, or specifically Christophanies, appearances of Christ. A good example of that is when Noah was on the ark and the door was shut. The Lord actually shut them in. That's an appearance of Christ in the Old Testament, for example. But we also have a number of messianic prophecies leading up to Jesus stepping into history. We find out more about his life and what he ultimately did on the cross. And that's a great message, especially at Easter.
It really is. And this is a unique conference. I think it'll be the best climate change conference ever because we're helping people understand that really this issue in regard to physical climate change comes down to two foundations, God's word or man's word. And you're also talking about the spiritual aspects in regard to when you start with God's word, you understand what's happened to this world. Dr. Snelling will explain that the major climate change catastrophe was the flood.
The flood,
and
was a
we're
big
still
one.
settling down from the flood.
Yeah.
And God promises to preserve seasons, and the next major cataclysmic climate change is not going to be what politicians like AOC say and so on.
Right.
It's going to be when God comes to actually carry out the final judgment, and the judgment by fire.
Yeah.
Now that's going to be a climate change.
That's going to be a climate change indeed.
But there's been a climate change in our whole Western world too, because the Western world was once very Christianized in its worldview, even though not Christian.
And we've
but
seen a decline in that.
Christianized because of the Judeo-Christian ethic that came from the Bible. But we've got younger generations today that are so secularized that have been trained to build their worldview on man's word. And now because of that, they're led astray by false information about climate change, and there's climate change hysteria, and they're all worried about the future and so on. They need to be worried about their sin, actually.
Really, that's
what
what it
they
should
need
be.
to be worried about. But tell us some of the other speakers will be at this conference, Brady.
Well, some of the others, I know Mike Ward is going to be there, Mr. Ice Age, we call him.
He's an Ice Age expert.
He is an Ice Age expert and has worked on models for that, has some books
And we're
out.
still settling down from the Ice Age.
That's right. We still see residual effects and some back and forth. Dr. Andrew Snelling's going to be here, and he's a geologist. He's a bit of a flood expert. We got Dr. Cal Beisner, and he runs Cornwall Alliance, deals with a lot of the issues going on with global warming and climate change.
He's a real expert in that area.
Yeah, he really is.
And he's going to give people the real data, not the selected data that you see.
Right, we see that
a
way
lot of
too
times.
often. Yeah, we got Dr. Alan White's going to be here. He's also an expert on climate change, global warming.
Yeah, he's written some articles on our website, actually.
Yeah, he's spoken
and he
in-
speaks for us too.
Yeah, he does, and he's spoken in multiple continents on the issues of climate change. So
I think he's going to Australia to speak on,
he
on
might
climate
be.
change over there. Yeah.
I was with him when we were down in Peru, down in South America. He actually got an audience with several mayors and some politicians to be able to talk to them and give them the facts behind what's actually going on.
And we have a lot of other speakers too. And we also have Ray Comfort from Living
Ray.
Waters, and
Easy, yeah.
his son-in-law from Living Waters. So this is going to be an incredible conference. And then many of our own speakers, Dr. Terry Mortensen, Dr. Georgia Purdom, Dr. Gabriella Haynes, who's our paleontologist from Brazil.
Right, Dr. Rivera, I believe, is going to be there.
Dr. Rivera, she's our education specialist and a forensic scientist, actually. So this is a really unique conference. Actually, I'm even going to give a talk. How about that?
You're going to give it. Well, it's good to have you there.
Yeah, and Bodie will be giving a talk as well. So this is a unique conference. So April 8 is like a pre-conference. There's all sorts of presentations on that day. Then April 9 through 11, there's a whole series of presentations dealing with physical climate change, and have these climate change experts and spiritual climate change. And then April 12, the sunrise, Easter morning service, which will be absolutely
that was powerful here
incredible.
last year, so I'm looking forward to it this next year.
So normally, I know that people put comments and ask questions, and normally have my phone and I follow along. But we had to use my phone today for doing this broadcast.
Right. We
So
almost had climate change as a result of that.
Yeah, I
didn't we?
know. I mean, I'm having an emotional breakdown right here because I don't have,
Can't
don't
see
have my
that.
phone with me. I can't hold it in my hand. So I don't know if our videographer can see any questions that are being asked there. She can let us know.
The cost for the conference was actually quite well, considering, we got 3 to 4 days of this. So.
Well, actually, in the way we charge for the conference, it's really an annual pass to enable you to have free parking and come back in the Creation Museum as much as you want for a whole year.
Right.
And then there's a family combo pass, which is an incredible
Well,
deal.
we have a
And
special
kids,
this year, too.
Kids 10 and
Yeah.
under are free.
Yeah, for
this year.
2020.
So
Someone asked, when was the last ice age?
when was the last Ice Age?
Well, there was one major ice age, and that was triggered by the flood of Noah's day. Just to give people a taste, an ice age, if you just cool off the earth, you're not going to get an ice age. You're going to get a cold globe. You need unique conditions. What you need are warm oceans and cool summers. Warm oceans from the flood, continental rearrangement, volcanic activity, that warms your oceans, which gives a lot more precipitation, a lot more snow in the wintertime. And with cool summers, it doesn't all melt off. And believe it or not, the flood with the volcanism and all the aspects of that, I don't want to go into the technical details of that, but that's what triggers an ice age for that to build up. So it was actually a major ice age triggered by the flood. Now, we've had a little bit of back and forth, like we've said, and we had what we call the little ice age, which was more just before the medieval times and the medieval warming period.
We could even have a little Ice Age again. I mean, that's very possible. But I think people have to remember, they're all worried about climate change. The Sahara Desert, didn't it used to be lush and
yeah.
fertile.
Yeah, they find evidence of that.
Well,
in
did man
sand.
cause that because they had motor
Right.
cars running around there?
That's
at that-
right.
See, it doesn't make sense, does it?
Right.
And what about, one of my favorite places in America is Jackson, Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackson
Hole? Is
Jackson
that-
Hole,
'cause,
yep.
yeah.
The town of Jackson is actually built in a glacially carved valley. And you can drive for miles
Really?
along that valley that the glacier once
Yeah.
carved. Well, where's the glacier? It's all melted back. But all that happened in the past, right?
Correct.
So did man cause that? I
Right.
mean, see,
There's a secular mindset that's taken over. People assume that there really hasn't been any climate change for a long time. This is a secular assumption, man's ideas. And now all of a sudden they see slight variations and fluctuations. They think, oh no, what do we do? But see, they're not thinking in terms of actual history. Biblical history gives a true history.
and actually, evolutionists believe in the past there was a time when carbon dioxide was much greater and the temperature was much greater, and actually we would believe that too, particularly at the time of the flood because of
Right.
the effects of the flood. But anyway, this is going to be a very, very interesting conference.
Really is.
Don't miss it. It's our Easter conference. We had an Easter conference last year, and many people said, "You're going to do another Easter conference. This was so great." We have special music, but April 9 through 12. It's actually April 8 through 12.
Right.
We have a pre-conference, but people can come and select whatever talks they want to go to, actually.
Yeah.
And the Ark is right here.
It's right
and
here,
It's right
yeah.
here in the Answer Center. And
Yeah.
of course, the Creation Museum is 45 minutes away. And those who come to the conference actually get an annual pass to the Ark and the Creation Museum. And they can get the family pass, which is an incredible deal for them. So there we are. Go to our website. Go to answersingenesis.org
Right.
and find out all the information there. Actually, if you want to go straight to it, you can go to answersoutreach.org/Easter.
/Easter.
Answersoutreach.org/Easter. Otherwise, just go to our answersingenesis.org website and you'll see a place
Right.
there where it talks about our calendar, and
Yeah.
you'll see the conference advertised and so on.
Yeah.
So that is coming up April 8, pre-conference, 9, 10, 11, all the in-depth talks.
And
April
I just want to
12, the
encourage people
sunrise
to come
service.
too. I want them to come. If they've been to the museum before, if they've been to the Ark Encounter, we're always upgrading things. We're adding new exhibits, adding new signage. We see that, we've done some significant updates at the Creation Museum, and we've got a planetarium, a brand new update on that that's going to be coming out soon. I've seen already some stuff here at the Ark that I haven't seen previously. So,
Well,
that's
buddy,
a good time.
the Ark Encounter is actually open. There'll be
Oh,
people outside.
they'll be one to come in here.
There's
So,
a program in here in the Answer Center at 10:15. We have to let them get in.
all right.
So we better end this. But I really encourage you to look at coming to our Easter conference, spending Easter here with us
Yeah.
at the Ark Encounter, the Answer Center, learn all about physical and spiritual climate change, and of course, a great place to bring your kids. They can have fun at the Ark Encounter,
Yeah.
the Creation Museum, our playgrounds, all the other things, the animals, the zoo, the exhibits, just phenomenal family Christian-themed attractions. So the Climate Change Answers Conference, answersoutreach.org/Easter, or go to the answersingenesis.org website, find out the information, and come and meet Bodie Hodge, because you'll be there.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there. They can meet you too.
You guys have a great day.
All right. Blessings.